Hi everybody, my name is Rob Scott from UC Today, and in this session I'm joined by Jason Byrne, Senior VP of Products and Marketing at NetSapiens. And today we'll be talking about cloud communications, challenges and opportunities in 2020. So welcome Jason, nice to see you.
Great, thanks for having us, Rob.
My pleasure. Jason, really excited about this session today, but the best place to start would be a quick intro if possible. So could you tell me a little bit about yourself and NetSapiens?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I run the products and marketing team here at NetSapiens. We're a cloud communications platform provider. Been in business since around 2003, I think it was. We've got over 160 service providers around the globe running on our platform. And that we have, I think at last I checked, it was about 2 weeks ago, we have 1.3 million users on our platform. So that puts us in the stratosphere of the top platform providers around the globe. So hoping to share some insights, from across that service provider community and over 1 million users on our platform. Hopefully we can get some good insights today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this year's obviously been an interesting year for us all. Especially the industry as well. So just to kick off the conversation, set the scene, what's the year been like from your perspective and maybe from the service provider's perspective? What's been good about the year so far?
Yeah, good question. I think the need for a seamless user experience on the mobile, you've heard that term mobile first. Well, that's certainly become more important. But I think even what's jumped and leapfrogged that has been video first, right? I think the notion of team collaboration and UC environments as two distinct sort of platforms. Now they've become more, intertwined. I think that's jumped to the fore with the likes of Zoom and everybody else that's been out there. So certainly video first has jumped to the front. And really now it's a case of, going forward between UC and collaboration. It's going to be a very interesting time to see how this plays out. If you cast your mind back before the COVID pandemic, on-premise PBX ruled the business, ruled the office, and it dominated the office. And I think it was 70%, I believe, was the on-premise PBX equipment market share. Only cloud-based communications around 30%. But it was growing pretty quickly. It was growing at like 15% a year, cloud communications. In NetSapiens, we were growing at 3 times that. So we were in a really good position from that standpoint. But now the pandemic hit, overnight the office moved home. And that was significant, right? Anything like that at the blink of an eye where an industry shifts from from the office to the home, it's going to have some repercussions. Before this pandemic, only 5% of employees, I think, were working from home a couple days a week. Now we're at about 50% of the knowledge-based workers that are working from home. And I saw some estimates, I think it was Gartner that put out, was 25% of the workforce after this whole thing is over are still expected or still planning to work from home, at least a couple days a week. So that shift out of the office to do, and what that impact will have on the on-premise PBX, it's obvious. It's going to accelerate its demise. It was slowly dying. The shift to the cloud was moving very quickly. You can imagine this is just greatly accelerating that. So overnight, that market growth, a 15% growth rate for cloud-based platforms, that's doubled, tripled in the space of 2 or 3 months, which is unheard of in any industry. And it's really an industry turn. That phrase you read in any business paper. It's a big industry turn that's going on, and it's a great place for service providers to really put themselves where they can position themselves by offering the services that those remote workers are looking for, and in a big way. So it's a great position, and again, you make use of those industry turns when they happen, and this is certainly one of those big industry turns.
Yeah, I think we're certainly going to remember this one for a long time, aren't we? It's probably the biggest change agent for this technology that we've ever seen in our lifetime. So interesting times. And do you think the nail in the PBX coffin is finally in there, solid? It's not coming out.
Yeah, that's a good question. From So certainly, if it was dominating at 70% and cloud was growing at 15%, is it the nail in the coffin? Absolutely. I mean, maybe that's not the right term, but certainly it is. It is. The demise is accelerated
Yeah.
extremely quickly. It's. I think I've never seen anything like this happen so fast to an industry. And the on-premise folks and the platforms and the companies who provide those are scrambling fast to try and scoop up some of the cloud platforms that are out there. So there's a lot of M&A going on in the industry to try and quickly shift and pivot those on-prem solutions that are out there, such as like Mitel and folks like that. Yeah, I definitely do.
So lots of opportunity out there at the moment for service providers. What challenges do service providers have in 2020 and in an environment or space like this right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before you even look at the service providers, let's look at the end users, right? The folks that are driving the service provider's business plan. Those end users I saw on average are using 3 to 4 different platforms to deliver that collaboration and unified communication. So 3 to 4 different platforms and all from different vendors, which makes for a pretty poor user experience. So folks are going for video collaboration or video conferencing, they're using Zoom. They might use Google Hangouts for the messaging, a different app for collaboration. And a lot of businesses are obviously have their own sort of small contact center or inside sales, and they're going to a different platform for that. So that's a very disconnected, poor user experience, I think, for the end users. And there was a great survey, I think it was Nemertes, that put out that said 85% of employees want a single unified communication and collaboration platform vendor. So a single pane of glass is what the demand is. 85% of the end users are just sick and tired of 3 and 4 different applications. So, and competition is not only coming from service providers, other service providers, but it's also coming from the folks of what they're reselling. If they're reselling Zoom or WebEx, they're going direct. I mean, a lot of those folks, whether it's RingCentral, all the different offerings that are out in the market today, if service providers are reselling that, they're also competing with those. So it's tough to hang on to that, especially if you're not holding on to your brand. The Zooms of the world, whose brand remains in the corner, or the service provider's customer. The service providers don't own those customers anymore when you're reselling a lot of these retail plays that are out there. So really the competition is coming from obviously the other competitors or service providers, but also the collaboration tools themselves, who sort of short-circuited, I would say, the standard business model or standard go-to-market strategy that's out there. And the other thing I think we've seen is these collaboration platforms are very strong in collaboration, but very poor on unified communications. I would say, a basic PBX function at best. So a lot of them are platform providers are looking for that bolt-on unified communications features to add as part of that whole offering that they bring to the end users. And if it's, when you get down this path of reselling other platforms that are out there that you're also competing against, it's a never-ending race to the bottom in margin. At some point, the service providers will be squeezed to the point of, it's no longer makes business sense to resell a lot of these applications. And then you just look at the differentiation. How do you differentiate, when you are reselling a lot of the platforms that everyone else is reselling? So I think those are the big things: differentiation, user experience, poor user experience, and the shift away, or the demand to shift away from 3, 4 disconnected platforms. These have been the biggest challenges, I think, that the service provider community have faced, especially in the last 4 months.
I wanted to talk about fierce competition, because I think there's some serious competition out there at the moment for service providers. We've got, as you mentioned, lots of adjacent vendors coming into the space as well, but there's some serious players in our space now. The likes of Microsoft, the likes of Zoom, all come with their slightly different plays or strategies or go-to-market kind of strategies. But how does a service provider compete? Do they need to compete with the likes of Microsoft Teams and Zoom?
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest things that's facing service providers today. Is certainly there's a big play from, like I say, the collaboration folks that have been very strong and gone direct to market. Um, and you only have to look at the recent acquisition, I think, by Microsoft, who acquired Meta, which we think at NetSapiens, we think is a great play because it's really, we see Microsoft really focusing on the wireless more so than the unified communications. So it really does open up a little more, a lot more breathing room for folks. I did see recently there was, I think it was 75 million daily active users on Teams. But if you actually look at the UC part of that, it's only in the low single digits, right? So again, marketing smoke and mirrors sort of going on, but certainly, how do you compete with the folks like this? Compete, and I'll also extend that sentence to embrace. Service Connect, let's just pick Teams as an example. They've realized pretty quickly that trying to go after this space of many, many different, whether it's on-premise or cloud platforms out there, is not as easy as they thought. So what Microsoft has done is they've opened up that direct routing function, which enables different platform providers to embrace and work and interwork together with the Microsoft team. So you'll have that, if a service provider is going into an account and they're using Microsoft Teams for that, say, collaboration, but it does deliver a poor PBX or unified communications offering, they can now embrace an inner work where you can, the end user or the employees can continue to use that Teams for their environment, and that call button is now seamlessly integrated with the UC platform. So you get a lot of, you get the value, and rather than trying to go head to head with a lot of folks, especially where Microsoft is dominant in a lot of businesses, and if you actually embrace and say, yeah, no problem, we can interwork with, keep your Microsoft Teams, keep the functions that you like using, but from a unified communications, we can offer a lot more value there and integrate seamlessly. So that call button in Teams can seamlessly integrate and work out, and then all the traffic goes through your cloud platform. So I think that's one of the big things. It's not necessarily compete, but more of embrace those types of things. Fighting to replace that system probably doesn't resonate with every user. And some folks will have success. Maybe it's on pricing, maybe it's on feature set. Again, I think the Microsoft and the Zoom, very heavy on collab, less around unified communications. The other, I think, thing is having the ability to own your own destiny. Right, and this is one of the biggest things from a business model standpoint. When you do go down the path of reselling all these other platforms out there, you're in a margin play, you're in a cost plus play, and owning your own business model and taking control of that, it's almost impossible. When it's a cost plus, it's a race to the bottom on margin, and there's very little differentiation. So purchasing your own platform and on a per seat, basis is ludicrous. We've put out a bunch of research around the UC industry itself, and the average, I think it was late October, November of last year, we found the average in the UC industry was for every 25 seats, there was only one active call or one active session going on. So that's a significant redundant amount of seats that service providers have purchased and are not using. Why are you paying your vendor on a per seat basis when you're only actually using 1 out of 25? If you go into, and it depends on which vertical too. If you look at the hotels or hospitality, it goes up over 100 to 1. So there's a big shift in the industry from a business model standpoint, away from paying per seat and moving towards session based. I only want to pay for when there's an active session on my system. And that then enables gives control back to the service providers, where they can, fashion their own offering, multiple packages that they can offer, and again try and disrupt a lot of verticals or a lot of competition, and capture that with some innovative pricing. So give them control back to the service providers is what they've been screaming for a long time. Disconnecting their costs away from their pricing. And that's a huge play that's going on in the industry today. Now, the service providers are still going to charge by the seat, don't get me wrong, but they want to disconnect their costs from that, especially if only 1 out of 25 actually has an active session going on. So you do need to ask your platform provider, do they support that session pricing model, or do you want to continue to be beholden to that cost plus model? I think the other trend we're seeing is certainly, and it's been very prevalent recently, is the collaboration folks go-to-market strategy has been very successful in the freemium, starting off with a freemium model. I saw there was a bullet out recently, or half a collaboration platform, the biggest customers in collaboration started off as a freemium customer. So having multiple offerings, good, better, best type of thing, and having that intro with a limited feature set is some of the things that we're seeing that have really great success in the collaboration. And now unified communications and collaboration, those combined tools, are heading down that same path. The platform vendors who have that collaboration built in, if you'll just look at the history of unified communications, we've had collaboration in there for a very long. We've had video, we've had messaging, persistent, group chats, all that's been built in. It's just come to the fore now during this pandemic. And really it's, we're trying to see and trying to coach the service providers to focus on having those multiple packages, having that freemium to get people in to try and buy before they buy. It's something that's really resonating with a lot of service providers. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I echo that. I'm hearing lots around collaboration in the service provider space as being the next big opportunity. As we know, we're in the middle of the pandemic as we record this session today, and we are using video all day long now. But certainly, a lot of service providers have, often been, too voice centric, or has probably been voice centric for a long time. How easy is it to get into the video space if you are a service provider?
Yeah, good question. So certainly the best of breed folks, folks who have over a million subscribers or users on their platforms, they've already built this in. The likes of NetSapiens ourselves, we've had this video collaboration for a long time. We did spend a lot of time in the last year beefing that up, so it ended up being great timing with relation to what's going on today. But you can find unified communications platforms, which is really the core of the engine of where the future is heading is, and then having that collaboration around there. You do need that strong full UC offering, no matter what. The phone is definitely shifting from a desk phone. Desk phone will always be there. I did see a Gartner thing where the desk phone usage is dropping, but the usage of all three is increasing. So desktop, mobile phone, and the desk phone. And that intersection of all three is just exploding. So it's not going away. Unified communications and the PBX functionality is going to be still core to that. Making sure you have a seamless user experience with a collaboration tool and not going to a disconnected platform. That's one of the things where UC shines, right? This UC industry, it really shines from that perspective, is having that single pane of glass from a collaboration, from a messaging, from a security standpoint, which has been in the industry recently for the collaboration folks. It all sort of ends up being a single pane of glass again for that end users want, and the service providers will then get that ability to differentiate from reselling 4 different disconnected platforms where they don't even have their brand on it. So finding a unified communications platform that enables you to keep control of your business model, enables you to keep control of your brand, and not lose ownership of those customers or end users is key. And I think that's where the UC industry really shines and will help take a lion's share of the collaboration space, because it really is joining UC and collaboration. It's really been forced almost overnight to become one. And the collaboration folks are scrambling to get that UC side of things, where we've been doing it for such a long time.
Jason, I know we could talk about the opportunities and the industry for a lot longer, but we'll have to round this up for today. But how can anyone look at NetSapiens? How can they get in touch with NetSapiens and explore your technologies further?
Yeah, good question. So certainly you can reach out for content. We got a lot of content from podcasts, webinars, white papers, ebooks, a lot of content, especially around remote working. So go to netsapiens.com, netsapiens.com, or reach out to us directly, sales@netsapiens.com, and you can we'll have we can get a consultation going, walk you through some of the the benefits that we offer from that single pane of glass, taking control of the business model. So yes, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a chat with any service providers who are sort of sitting on the fence. Glad to have a chat with folks.
Great. And thanks to everyone for watching. And if you've enjoyed today's session, please do give us a quick like or a share on social media. It's always really appreciated. So thanks for watching.